DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. PK, you spoke with Connor Pay, BYU center, expected to anchor a much-improved offensive line. What are the highlights people should be listening here?
Accountability, acknowledging that the offensive line wasn't up to snuff last year, and what can they do to correct it. He pulls no punches, that it's about them, and they need to be better. And I said, why are offensive linemen usually so accountable? It's because our whole job is to help others succeed, and when they don't succeed, it falls back on us.
Here's Connor Pay with PK on 97.5 The Zone.
And we always hear the offensive line, the only time you hear about them is when something goes wrong, a holding or, offsides, whatever.
That's what we like it.
Yeah, and then we had last year, the offensive line didn't come together.
Nope.
Now, I've always known you to be a straight shooter,
yeah.
And you'll say the truth as you see it. So what makes fans, media, players, everybody believe that this year's going to be different?
Well, I think obviously, having a new coach brings a lot of changes, right? And there's been some changes in scheme and some innovations that Coach Woods has brought that I think have been really helpful, but also just his intensity and his consistency as a coach. It's a little different now where it's like it's pretty rare for us to get into a scenario at this point where we don't know at least what we should have done. And that wasn't necessarily the case over the past couple years where there's just it's very consistent is the way I would describe it. His coaching and his style and the schemes that he's brought, and it's innovative. And so I think because we had some guys who were banged up in spring ball, so we had some young guys who were running with the ones, and we were able to perform well. And got better as spring ball went on, and we were able to run the ball pretty well against the defense, and so that kind of helped give us confidence a little bit and moving into the summer.
My experience of doing this in college football for many years is offensive linemen in general tend to speak the truth. They're usually good interviews. They don't get interviewed a lot, but they're good interviews, right? Because they take – not to say that the other positions don't take a personal accountability, but it seems offensive linemen really take personal accountability as far as everything is going on. Is that something you see with your guys?
Absolutely, and I think there's been an uptick even in it with Coach Woods coming in and bringing a high level of accountability too, because, I've been pretty open about this, that I think the offensive struggles that we had last year fall squarely on the offensive line. And the challenges that we have. You can't expect a quarterback to be able to throw the ball well if he's not protected, and you can't expect a running back to get yards if he's getting hit in the backfield, and so it's an offense rises and falls with the strength of its offensive line, and unfortunately we were weak last year, and I think it's kind of built into your DNA as an offensive lineman to kind of have that accountability, because everything you do on the field is for somebody else. There's not really an option to be to kind of have a selfish outlook on things, because it's like, what are you doing? You're smashing your head against somebody else's head so someone else can score touchdowns or throw touchdowns, and so I think that's partly why offensive lines kind of tend to have that accountability aspect to them, but I think the accountability has increased tenfold since Coach Woods has arrived, and just the standard is the same for everybody, and you either meet it or you don't. If you do, you're going to get better as a player and you'll play for us and compete. If you don't, the transfer portal's here for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. We'll move on from you, and that's just the way it is.
I don't have all the guys in front of me, but I know you've been around for a good long time.
Sure.
I'm thinking that you, in terms of experience, I believe you're the most experienced guy. With that in mind, there's a certain attachment of leadership that goes to that responsibility and that experience. So how much are you taking that upon yourself?
Quite a bit. And I don't think it's very different to the situation I was in last year. I think the only difference now is that instead of being kind of the most experienced guy on the offensive line, I think I might be the most experienced guy on the offense. Mm-hmm. Maybe the team. Yeah. I think in terms of starts, it's probably just me and Tyler Batty who are up there near the 40s. And so I think with that comes a little bit of an expectation, especially from like the younger players, for you to set the standard and you're kind of the person they look to for the way things are supposed to be done, whether that's in our summer training every day or whether we're doing indie periods or how you practice. Like, I think it just heightens the intensity and the attention to detail you have to have, because there's eyes on you 24/7. You can't just kind of fade into the background and go through the motions.
You're talking, when you say eyes, you're talking your teammates.
Yes, teammates, and coaches too.
Right.
But more importantly, probably your teammates, because it's the responsibility of the leaders to set the culture of the team.
So if you slack, well, then I can too, that
exactly.
type of thing. Whereas if you're going hard all the time, well, that's the standard I got to meet.
Exactly, and so I think, and then that's why I said it's pretty similar to the situation I was in last year, because I was in that same boat, having to set the culture and set the standard, and we obviously failed as leaders last year in setting an effective culture of the team. I think it's been night and day different this offseason, and I think that partly comes because obviously guys are embarrassed by how we played.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chip on the shoulder a little bit and a desire to perform better, but just trying to do my best to influence guys in a positive way, to help set the culture of our team as a culture of grit and accountability, and that translates into a culture of winning.
We hear that a lot of your coaches coached up at Utah, and they talk about how, well, there was an adjustment period when we came from the Mountain West to the Pac-12. Yep. And the record bared it out that was the case, and obviously the more they got into the Pac-12, the more they showed it. So now relating it to BYU is that we're hearing, well, there's an adjustment period, and last year was an adjustment period. Okay, now I think we as media, we as fans, and all the people who follow your program, we can live with that idea that there was an adjustment period, but the adjustment period has to end at some point. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
No, I think there's definitely truth to that statement, but I don't think that is the reason why we performed poorly last year. I think we performed poorly last year because we played poorly, right? And we made mistakes. And is that because, we kind of the 9 straight conference games is a little bit of a gauntlet? I mean, did that play a role? I'm sure it probably did, but it's not the reason. And so I do think that now, having gone through that for a season, especially from a mental perspective, I think that'll be a big advantage for us now this year, having gone through that before. Because you can talk about what a conference schedule is like and how we played 8 Power 5 games or whatever in 2021 as an independent. We did all that, and it's like, that's different than playing 9 straight conference games and watching the standings move and all that stuff. It's just different.
Right.
And so now, having experienced that, guys kind of know what that's going to be like now. And so in the sense of a transition period, I think that's definitely an aspect that's real. But, and maybe that helps them kind of mentally prepare for the season and kind of as we go week to week. But at the end of the day, the lines are the same, right? When you go out to play the game, and you've either got to do your job or not do your job. And if you do your job, you should play. If you don't do your job, you should be benched. At the end of the day, that's how you win and that's how you lose. Because there was only, I could think of maybe only 1 game last year, maybe 2, where it was just like, okay, you know what? We were kind of just physically outmatched in that game. The rest, we just made mistakes. We lost because we played like crap, not because they were that much better than us, and so I think we can kind of mature from that a little bit, having gone through it and now going into this season. So and that's why I say I think it plays a little bit of a role, but it's not the reason.
So it seems that you can make a strong case that mentally that the team is improved just having gone from the experience.
Yes.
How about literally the talent level? Can you, and you're there, and you're literally in the trenches, can you say from the offensive standpoint that the talent will be better this year than last year overall?
Overall, I would say yes. I think it looks a little different when you take it from position group to position group, right? Because obviously, if you look at the offensive line, it's not a secret that this is, we're a little thinner right now, especially in terms of like experience. And if you want to equate that to talent, you can a little bit too. But I would say overall, with everybody, I would say yes, because we've had some high-quality transfers, right. And we have some really talented young players that are coming in that have signed. And so overall, I would agree with that statement. and I think, but obviously you got to go and show it on the field, and for us in the O-line room, we got to have some guys who have played a role but not a big one in the past. They have to step up. That's how you improve and take steps in your career as a player, and we're going to need some guys to do that this offseason, and thankfully, a few of them have that we've really needed it, and that gives me confidence and makes me excited. So
why did you decide to return?
I think for me, I think probably the first and foremost, I did want to get my degree. I didn't want to leave early, especially. I mean, if my NFL stock had been where I wanted it to be, I would have. But with having a down season, when you don't win, everybody's stock goes down in terms of the NFL, and I'm not exempt from that, and so got into a position where I was just like, I either take a risk of being either very late or most likely a free agent, or come back for my senior year. And when they announced the coaching change on the offensive line, that was kind of the first time that I had to really kind of take a look and be like, okay, now what do I want to do? And so, but after I met with Coach Woods those first couple times, I was like, okay, this guy can help me. He's going to help our team. Because at the end of the day, my main focus is winning.
Yeah.
If we win, my NFL stock will go up.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of guys don't understand, is you think so much about yourself. And it's like, I got to play so well. And it's like, and when I look at myself, I think of last year, and it's like, I didn't play bad last year, like as an individual. But it's not about the individual, and it's like, obviously I made my fair share of mistakes too, no doubt. But we lost. And that's why everyone's stock went down, and I feel bad for guys like Kingsley, like that guy was so talented and had every reason to be a first-round pick, but we didn't win. Yeah. And so he fell to the second round, and that's just how it goes. Yeah. And so, I wanted to come back because I want to help the team win, because that's the number one way that I can help improve the goals I have for my future. And I think, Coach Woods probably ended up being the biggest piece, because that's the guy I'm going to spend the majority of my time with, and helping us improve as an offense and improve our run game, especially as the run game coordinator. Him having that title has been huge. And but anyways, just I think those are kind of the main reasons for coming back, because I think Coach Woods can help our team and help me as an individual. Wanted to get my degree and want to help the team win.
Then I got to imagine, Connor, motivation, incentive, all those words for you, it's an all-time high.
Yeah, no doubt, because there's a time clock on it now.
Exactly.
It brings a different
now or never.
It brings a different edge to you, where it's like I've been counting down the days on my calendar since the NFL draft. It's like I knew from that day I had less than a year, to make this happen. Yeah. And now it's down to 200 and something days.
Nice.
And so it definitely brings an urgency, And I feel like I've tried to always bring that to the team and to the O-line room, but this obviously adds a different element to it.
There is Connor Pay. That's an interesting thought. NFL teams, they're missing on guys, passing on guys because the team didn't win enough. Should have gotten the more talented player. Lots of things contribute to winning that any individual player can't control.
Yeah, I think that's true, though, at least some degree. I mean, certainly early in a draft, it just seems like it's one winner after another.
Yeah, it does. And then we can go back and look at drafts and say, well, that guy didn't pan out, this guy didn't pan out. Why did you miss? It'd be interesting I'm assuming some NFL team must do studies on that.
Oh, yeah, I tell you, it's like horse racing.
Right.
They have the daily racing form.
And they go back after the race?
Constantly.
What happened?
What did I miss?
Right. Where'd it go wrong?
Was it class of prior? Was it distance? Was it time off between races? There's all sorts of factors that I'm not as familiar with that as I used to be when I was younger. I was eyeball deep in that stuff. And so you would see guys, and then they would share information, because you'd see a lot of the same people there. So there's just no doubt they review everything, figure out how they hit, thankfully, how they missed. Can't do that again. I mean, and I think what I'd be interested to see is what sport has a higher miss rate, particularly at the top. I mean, in baseball, if you're drafting, what are they used to be like 60 rounds. You know
Mike
what I mean?
Piazza, right?
So obviously you're going to miss. But
what happens in rounds 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah. Yeah, in the NBA.
NBA, you can only go 2.
And you'd probably go
1, really.
1, yeah. In baseball, you would go longer. But in football, I mean, you've got to hit on those guys because that's how you build your team. Obviously, the strength of your team is through the draft. And how many times do you miss in your first 4 rounds? How many times overall is there a miss? Because you always hear that too. We'll hear it here in a few weeks, coming up in another month or so. The second round pick from 2022 is let go. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? Because that second round pick is supposed to be a starter, at least getting in there and playing, being more than special teams. And if they cut him so early, it's a big deal. And what happened? And in football, so much of it, man, a lot of those positions is heart. Because it's a tough sport.
Got to pick yourself up so many times.
Yeah, and do guys quit? And then some of it's injury related too. They can't get themselves healthy. They've had multiple injuries, and I've had guys tell me that, well, I got my pension. I'm not rehabbing this knee for the 3rd time.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's cool, too, that they've been able to do that. You think that's why the lifespan of an NFL player is so small.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up next, everything you missed in this show. We'll get you up to speed. Stay with us.